Either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. If one cannot enjoy reading a book over and over again, there is no use in reading it at all. The books that the world calls immoral are books that show the world its own shame. A writer is someone who has taught his mind to misbehave. I am too fond of reading books to care to write them. There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written, or badly written. Lock up your libraries if you like, but there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind. Books are the mirrors of the soul. Sometimes I think heaven must be one continuous unexhausted reading. I ransack public libraries and find them full of sunk treasure. To read a novel is a difficult and complex art. Reading is equivalent to thinking with someone else's head instead of with one's own. I've never known any trouble that an hour's reading didn't assuage. In reading, the mind is, in fact, only the playground of another's thoughts. Reading is merely a surrogate for thinking for yourself. It means letting someone else direct your thoughts. Reading is a mere makeshift for original thinking. The man who reads nothing at all is better educated than the man who reads nothing but newspapers. I cannot live without books. From candlelight to early bedtime, I read. I do not know whether you are fond of chemical reading. There are some things in this science worth reading. We generally learn languages for the benefit of reading the books written in them. Read the best books first, or you may not have a chance to read them at all. Books are the treasured wealth of the world and the fit inheritance of generations and nations. How many a man has dated a new era in his life from the reading of a book? What I began by reading, I must finish by acting. Whatever sentence will bear to be read twice, we may be sure was thought twice. The library is a wilderness of books. After all, I believe it is the style of thought entirely, and the style of expression, which makes the difference in books. He who cannot read is worse than deaf and blind, is yet but half alive, is stillborn. You cannot open a book without learning something. You must find time for reading, or surrender yourself to self-chosen ignorance. Reading without thinking will confuse you. Thinking without reading will place you in danger. There are books of which the backs and covers are by far the best parts. We never tire of the friendships we form with books. Little learning and much pride come of hasty reading. The decline of literature indicates the decline of a nation. Every reader, if he has a strong mind, reads himself into the book, and amalgamates his thoughts with those of the author. Reading is that fruitful miracle of a communication in the midst of solitude. In reality, every reader is, while reading, the reader of his own self. The person, be it gentleman or lady, who has not pleasure in a good novel, must be intolerably stupid. A fondness for reading, which, properly directed, must be an education in itself. But for my own part, if a book is well written, I always find it too short. I declare, after all, there is no enjoyment like reading. It is my ambition to say in 10 sentences what others say in a whole book. A book is made better by good readers and clearer by good opponents. Books for general reading always smell bad, the odor of common people hangs around them. The things I want to know are in books. My best friend is the man who'll get me a book I ain't read. A capacity and taste for reading gives access to whatever has already been discovered by others. A new book is like a friend that I have yet to meet. If you want your name to be remembered after your death, either do something worth writing or write something worth reading. Reading makes a full man, meditation a profound man, discourse a clear man. Reading was the only amusement I allowed myself. Make it a rule never to give a child a book you would not read yourself. A person who won't read has no advantage over one who can't read. Be careful about reading health books. You may die of a misprint. A classic is something that everybody wants to have read and nobody wants to read. The time comes in life when we have read enough. It's time to stop reading. It's time to lay down the books and write. Many a book is like a key to unknown chambers within the castle of one's own self. If the book we are reading does not wake us, as with a fist hammering on our skull, why then do we read it? Life being very short, and the quiet hours of it few, we ought to waste none of them in reading valueless books. If a book is worth reading, it is worth buying. Some books should be tasted, some devoured, but only a few should be chewed and digested thoroughly. Read not to contradict and confute, nor to believe and take for granted, but to weigh and consider.